Why does it feel like your modern friendships are stuck in a permanent state of, we should catch up soon, that never actually happens? You see a photo of your parents at your age, sitting on a cluttered porch with 4 or 5 other people, looking completely at ease. There are no phones on the table. Nobody looks like they're squeezed into a tight schedule between a gym session and a grocery run. They just look there. When you compare that to your own life, you might feel a strange sense of guilt or exhaustion. You have 3 unread texts from friends you actually like, but the thought of replying feels like a chore on your to-do list. You know you're lonely, but when someone actually invites you out, your first instinct is to find a socially acceptable reason to cancel. It's confusing because you have more ways to connect than any generation in history. Yet the actual feeling of friendship, the kind that breathes and keeps you warm, feels harder to find. In this video, we're going to look at the psychology of why pre-internet friendships felt so different, the specific ways our brains have been rewired to see social interaction as work, and what actually happened to the effortless connection we see in those old photos. Think about the last time you wanted to see a friend. You probably opened a calendar app, checked your availability for next Tuesday, sent a message, and waited for a confirmation. This is scheduled intimacy. In a pre-internet world, friendship was governed by forced proximity. You didn't text someone to see if they were home. You just knew where people were. You showed up at the same coffee shop, the same park, or the same porch because that's where life happened. Psychologists refer to this as the propinquity effect. It's the tendency for people to form friendships with those they encounter often. In the past, this happened by accident. Today, we've replaced accident with intent. Now, every single interaction requires a conscious decision and a logistical plan. Your brain, which is always trying to conserve energy, starts to categorize hanging out as a high-cost activity. It's no longer a natural part of your day. It's a project you have to manage. You're sitting on your couch on a Tuesday night. You think about your best friend. In 1994, you might have walked over or called their landline, knowing they were likely just sitting there too. There was no performance of being busy. Today, you look at your phone and see they posted an Instagram story 3 hours ago at a restaurant. Your brain does a quick calculation. They're busy. I don't want to interrupt. I'll message them later. This is the availability paradox. Because we are technically reachable 24/7, we've become more protective of our private time than ever before. We treat our attention like a finite bank account. We spend so much social energy maintaining our digital presence and reacting to the constant stream of pings that by the time we have a moment for a real friend, the account is overdrawn. You aren't bad at friendship. You're just operating on a brain that was designed for low stakes, accidental run ins, but is being forced to navigate a high stakes, high maintenance social economy. There's also the issue of the social highlight reel. Pre internet, you knew the boring parts of your friends' lives. You saw them when they were tired, when their house was messy, and when they had nothing interesting to say. Friendship was built on the low fidelity moments. Now, we mostly see the high fidelity version of each other. You see the promotion, the vacation, the perfectly plated dinner. When you see only the polished version of a friend's life, your brain subconsciously raises the bar for what your own interaction with them should look like. You feel like you need to have news or something meaningful to report. You stop calling just to say, I'm bored, because being bored feels like a personal failure in a world that demands constant productivity. Researchers have found that deep social bonding requires passive shared time, time where you aren't doing anything in particular, just existing in the same space. In the pre-internet era, this was the default. You'd sit in a car listening to the radio, or hang out in a kitchen while someone cooked. There was no pressure to entertain each other. Today, we've almost entirely eliminated passive shared time. If we're meeting, we're doing something. We're getting drinks, we're seeing a movie, we're hitting a 7 p.m. dinner reservation. The moment the activity ends, the social interaction ends. This creates a hidden layer of anxiety. You start to feel that if you aren't on or providing value, you're wasting the other person's time. This shift has changed the way we interpret silence. In an old school friendship, silence was comfortable. It was just two people being in a room. Now, silence in a text thread or a lull in a scheduled dinner feels like a red flag. It feels like the connection is dying. We've become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs that the effort of the meeting isn't paying off. Your brain is stuck in a loop of evaluating the quality of the friendship instead of just experiencing the friend. This is why you feel that weird exhaustion after a social event you were actually looking forward to. You weren't just hanging out, you were managing a social performance. You were trying to make sure the scheduled time was worth it. And when you get home, you feel like you need a recovery period from your own friends. The mechanism at play here is social friction. Pre internet life had low friction. You bumped into people, you lived in the same 3 block radius, you didn't have to curate your mood before seeing someone. Now, the friction is incredibly high. You have to navigate traffic, coordinate calendars, and overcome the digital fatigue of having been on Zoom calls all day. Your brain sees that high friction and makes a logical but lonely choice. It chooses the path of least resistance, which is staying home and scrolling through the lives of the people you miss. You end up knowing everything about what your friends are doing, but nothing about how they are actually feeling. We've traded presence for access. We have total access to our friends' lives through our screens, but almost no actual presence. And your nervous system knows the difference. It's why you can spend 4 hours in a group chat and still feel like your soul is hungry. You're getting the data of friendship without the nutrients of connection. This creates a specific kind of modern ache, the feeling of being connected but alone. You're not imagining it. And it's not because you're becoming an introvert or losing your social skills. It's because the invisible architecture that used to hold our friendships together has been dismantled and replaced with a system that treats connection like an app. But understanding this architecture is the first step to rebuilding it in a way that actually works for your brain today. The problem is that you're trying to maintain analog bonds using a digital operating system. You're waiting for a feeling of spontaneous connection to just happen, but your environment is designed to prevent it. To get that pre internet feeling back, you have to intentionally lower the cost of entry for your friendships. First, you have to kill the catch up trap. We've all been there. You haven't talked to a friend in months, so you feel like you need a 2 hour window to fully update them on your life. That thought alone turns friendship into a debt you can't pay back. Instead, try the 5 minute microdose. Send a text saying, I have exactly 5 minutes before my next meeting, but I saw this and thought of you. Hope you're having a good one. Setting a time limit releases both of you from the pressure to perform a deep conversation. Second, reclaim passive shared space. Invite a friend over specifically to do nothing together. Say, come hang out at my place. I'll be folding laundry and you can just bring your laptop or a book. It sounds strange at first because we've been trained to think hosting means providing entertainment. But when you remove the pressure to be on, the social friction vanishes. You're just two humans existing in the same room, the exact psychological environment that built the deepest bonds of previous generations. Next, stop status checking and start context sharing. Don't just send the polished dinner photo or the big promotion news. Send a blurry photo of the pile of dishes you're avoiding, or a shot of your messy desk with the caption, I'm drowning today. When you share your unfiltered reality, you give the other person permission to drop their guard too. You don't need a high fidelity version of yourself to be worthy of connection. Finally, try the unannounced call. We've started treating unexpected calls like a home invasion, but they are actually the fastest way to turn dead time, like sitting in traffic or walking the dog, into a shared moment. If they're busy, they won't pick up, and that's fine. If they do, you've bypassed the exhausting scheduling phase and jumped straight into the human connection. When you start doing this, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a lonely person who is too busy for friends and start seeing yourself as someone who lives a shared life. You'll realize your friends don't actually need your news or your best self. They just need your presence, even if you're tired, distracted, or busy with mundane chores. Friendship doesn't have to be a major production. It can be a messy 5-minute conversation on a random Tuesday afternoon. If this made you think of someone, don't wait for a free weekend. Send them a quick, messy text right now. Subscribe for more weekly dives into the psychology of our everyday lives. And tell me in the comments, what do you miss most about how we used to hang out? I'll be looking for your stories there.